Advertising and critical thinking. Advertising is an essential element of modern society, shaping our perceptions and influencing our decision-making processes. With the proliferation of media platforms, individuals are constantly bombarded with advertisements that seek to capture their attention and persuade them to buy products or services. In this dynamic landscape, it has become imperative for consumers to develop critical thinking skills in order to interpret advertising messages accurately and make informed choices. Advertising has a profound impact on consumer behavior and decision-making processes. Research has shown that advertisements can shape attitudes towards brands or products and influence purchasing decisions. This influence stems from the persuasive techniques used by advertisers that tap into human psychology. Advertisers often employ emotional appeals in their campaigns to evoke specific feelings or desires within the consumer. They may use storytelling techniques or leverage social norms in order to create a connection between their product and positive emotions such as happiness or belonging. Additionally, advertisements frequently utilize celebrity endorsements or expert opinions as a means of establishing credibility and authority. Critical thinking skills allow individuals to approach advertising messages with a discerning eye and evaluate them more effectively. By applying critical thinking techniques, consumers can identify underlying intentions, they can question claims made in advertisements, and assess their credibility. These skills will allow going beyond surface-level interpretations by questioning assumptions, examining underlying motives, and recognizing persuasive techniques employed by advertisers. Here are some examples of manipulative techniques employed in advertisements. Emotional manipulation. Advertisements often use emotional appeals to create a strong emotional response in viewers. For example, showing heartwarming scenes of family reunions or using sentimental music to evoke feelings of nostalgia or happiness. These techniques aim to manipulate viewers' emotions and establish a positive association with the advertised product or brand. Fear appeal. Some advertisements use fear as a motivator to persuade consumers. They highlight potential negative consequences or dangers of not using the product or service being advertised. So by instilling fear, advertisers attempt to create a sense of urgency and push consumers to take immediate action or make a purchase. The bandwagon effect. This technique leverages the desire for social acceptance and the fear of missing out. Advertisements often depict a large group of people using or endorsing a product, suggesting that everyone is doing it. By creating a perception of popularity and social conformity, advertisers aim to persuade consumers to join the bandwagon and purchase the product. Testimonials and social proof. Advertisements often use testimonials or reviews from satisfied customers to create a sense of credibility and trust. These testimonials may be selectively chosen or even fabricated to present a positive image of the product. The aim is to convince consumers that the product has been endorsed and recommended by others, increasing its perceived value. A critical interpretation would examine how these tactics manipulate consumer perceptions and exploit vulnerabilities in order to influence purchasing decisions. Critical interpretation of advertising messages involves analysing and evaluating advertisements from a critical perspective with the scope of uncovering underlying meanings, ideologies, and social implications. One way that critical thinking can be applied is by analysing the evidence provided in advertisements. Consumers should examine whether the evidence presented is reliable, relevant, and supported by reputable sources. They should also consider alternative perspectives and seek additional information before forming judgments. Furthermore, critical thinking involves evaluating how persuasive techniques are employed within advertisements. Individuals should be aware of manipulative tactics such as exaggerated claims, false testimonials, or misleading statistics. By being vigilant against these techniques, consumers can avoid falling victim to deceptive practices. Here are some more specific examples of critical interpretations of advertising messages. Gender stereotypes. Many advertisements perpetuate traditional gender roles and stereotypes, such as portraying women as passive objects or men as dominant figures. A critical interpretation would examine how these stereotypes reinforce societal norms and potentially reinforce inequalities. Body image and beauty standards. Advertisements often promote idealized and unrealistic body images, which can lead to body dissatisfaction and low self-esteem. A critical interpretation would question how these ads contribute to the objectification of bodies and the pressure to conform to narrow beauty standards. Consumerism and materialism. Advertisements often create a sense of desire and promote a culture of consumerism, where happiness and fulfillment are tied to purchasing products. A critical interpretation would explore how these messages prioritize material possessions and consumption over other aspects of life, such as personal relationships or well-being. Cultural appropriation. Some advertisements appropriate elements from other cultures for commercial purposes without understanding or respecting their significance. A critical interpretation would analyze how these ads reinforce power imbalances, exploit cultural symbols, and perpetuate stereotypes. Environmental impact. Many advertisements promote products or lifestyles that have negative environmental consequences, but they often fail to acknowledge or address these issues. A critical interpretation would question how these ads contribute to unsustainable practices and promote overconsumption. Diversity and inclusion. Advertisements that lack representation or portray certain groups in a stereotypical or tokenistic manner can perpetuate exclusion and marginalization. A critical interpretation would analyze how these ads reinforce biases, reinforce social hierarchies, or fail to authentically reflect diverse perspectives. Power and ideology. Advertisements are not neutral. They often reflect and reinforce dominant ideologies, cultural values, and power structures. A critical interpretation would investigate how these ads shape and perpetuate social norms, ideologies, and power dynamics. Interpreting advertising messages critically does come with its challenges. One common challenge is information overload. With the proliferation of advertisements across various media channels, consumers may find it overwhelming to process and critically evaluate all the messages they encounter. This can lead to fatigue or a reliance on heuristics rather than engaging in thorough critical thinking. Deceptive tactics employed by advertisers also pose a challenge to critical interpretation. Advertisements are designed to persuade and capture attention, often utilizing strategies that evoke emotions or exploit cognitive biases. Overcoming these challenges requires individuals to remain vigilant, actively question claims, and seek out additional information independently. Biases can be present in advertising messages, and they have the potential to influence individuals' interpretation of advertisements. One such bias is confirmation bias, which refers to the tendency to seek out information that confirms pre-existing beliefs or desires. Advertisers may capitalize on this bias by presenting selective evidence or cherry-picking testimonials that align with their product claims. Emotional appeals are another common bias found in advertising messages. By appealing to consumers' emotions, advertisers aim to create a positive association between their brand and desirable feelings. And this can lead individuals to make decisions based on emotional impulses rather than rational considerations. Cognitive dissonance is yet another bias prevalent in advertising messages. This occurs when there is a conflict between an individual's beliefs or values and the claims made in an advertisement. Advertisers may attempt to resolve this dissonance by providing justifications or minimizing conflicting information. In conclusion, critical thinking plays a vital role in interpreting advertising messages accurately and making informed consumer decisions. By developing this skill set, individuals empower themselves against manipulative tactics used by advertisers while gaining the ability to analyze evidence, identify biases, and form reasoned judgments. However, it is important for consumers to recognize the challenges posed by information overload and deceptive tactics in order to navigate the world of advertising effectively. To be effective consumers in today's media-saturated environment requires constant vigilance and active engagement with advertising messages through critical thinking skills. By doing so, individuals are better equipped to discern between genuine claims and persuasive techniques employed by advertisers, ultimately allowing them to make well-informed choices based on their own analysis rather than being swayed solely by marketing efforts.